You know, it's important for me to state that when people ask for the bio, when I give it to them, I'm just a regular person. All of those things are just words that I've found has helped direct me down the pathway that I have the opportunity to call my life. And I'm no greater than anybody in here. In fact, if we all shared our bio, regardless if we're very young or very old, there was a lot of things that we've been able to do where we've shared our light, our energy, and our essence in such a way that perhaps we've helped other people recognize theirs. So I just wanted to leave that disclaimer with you, okay? So to begin, isn't it strange that princes, princesses, kings, and queens, and individuals who are chasing their dreams, and extraordinary folks like you and me, you see, all are builders for eternity. For each is given a book of rules, a block of stone, and a bag of tools. We shape this rock as time has flown. We create stumbling blocks or stepping stones. The question that I have for each and every one of us here today is, how are you using your energy and your essence as you are helping to assist in the assembly and creation of your experience? All of those big words, all of those affirmative prayers, all of the meditations, all of the things that we talk about is, from my perspective, is hopefully reminding us that there is a great essence and power that is dwelling at the depths of our being that we are all using, whether we're aware of it or not. We are all assisting in the creation of that which we call our experience, and at times we simply forget, give it up to another individual, or look back after many days, weeks, months, or years and ask, why is this continuing to happen? Failing to recognize that there is this conscious essence and energy that is enabling us to just simply be here in this moment of now. I know I'm starting off deep, but if you're with me, will you say yes? Yes. All right, amen, amen, hallelujah. All right. So I've been on this spiritual path here for right about 10 years. And as I like to tease, I stumbled upon it when I was about 5. So, yes. I'm not 15, I drove here, so I'm at least 16. But I've been on this spiritual path for right about 10 years, and there's one incredible thing that has been continuing to stand out to me as I've traveled down this pathway that I have the privilege to call my life. And that is the recognition of how incredible this gift of life that you and I are living truly is. Just think about it for a moment. In this very moment, right now as we are taking this breath, there was this infinite universe that we are all a part of. Minerals and elements that are combining and intertwining in such a way that new stars and galaxies are being formed out there. There was this abundant sun that is shining down upon this beautiful planet that we have to call home, this earth that is spinning and orbiting in such a divine and harmonious manner. In this very moment of now, there are trees that are reaching towards the light, seeds that are slowly awakening to their inherent greatness that is sitting in soil that has been accumulating nutrients since the beginning of time. And all of this that is taking place out here. But you see, there was not only this incredible universe that is out here that we are looking at, there is this infinite universe that is in here. Our heart that is beating, our lungs that are breathing, our cells that are dividing, our atoms that are thriving. You see, the recognition that I've had as I'm continuing down this spiritual path is the understanding that from the furthest planet, the furthest star, to the closest atom that is dwelling within our being, there was one power and one presence that is flowing through it all. Are we able to recognize that? We're talking about this month here in CSL about honoring this planet that we have to call home. And perhaps the greatest place that we could start if we're truly honoring this planet that we have to call home is making sure that we're honoring one another. It does not matter the differences that we may have. It's simply recognizing as we're driving down the street and we see somebody pushing a shopping cart that is filled with stuff, or stopping at a park light and looking over and seeing somebody pull up in a $400,000 car, do we recognize that there's the same essence and energy within both of those individuals? No one is greater or lesser than another, which means you are no greater nor lesser than another. You see, if we believe that we are greater or superior to another individual, then that's the moment that equality simply is pushed to the side. That is the moment that we begin to naturally exclude individuals from feeling as if they are wanted, as if they are respected, as if they belong. So perhaps we can stop, as my mentor David Alt says in the Spiritual Living Center of Atlanta, he often says that we're walking around creating thought crimes or committing thought crimes day in and day out. Now, I can't peel back the layers of what's taking place inside of your mind, but I would dare to say if you're anything like me, there was at least one time this week where you thought a thought about an individual that made them look as if they were lesser, at some state that does not recognize that divine that we're just talking about. And perhaps, maybe those thought crimes are not just committed on other individuals, but we're committing them on ourselves. When there's an applause like that, that means I'm done. Thank you. No, I'm sorry. I'm just joking. Yeah, but it's important for us to begin to recognize that, okay? And I know that it's true because each moment of each day is an opportunity for us to reawaken to that uniqueness. And very simply put, we can pause periodically as we go throughout our experience and just simply ask ourselves, are we actually embracing the words, or are we just allowing them to stay as they are, which are words? You see, the words don't necessarily have power unless we embrace them into our consciousness, into our being, and bring them into our experience. That's how powerful we are. So, as I've been going down this particular path here today in my life and today as we have this conversation, have you realized that the essence and energy that is enabling you to be here today is that which has been with you before you even took your first breath? It will be with you after you take your last. It is not just with you in this moment of now, but it was shining through your mother, your father, your grandparents, your great-grandparents, your great-great-great-grandparents, going all the way back through time, all of whose lives were essential in the development of who you are here today. So as you stand in this very moment, you are standing on top of the shoulders of those who have come before you. And not just humans, we are standing on top of the shoulders of this sacred planet that we have to call home. The sun that is shining down from above, and all of those elements and minerals and things that assist in enabling us to just simply be here now. So with all of this being said here today, it's my hope to remind you to embrace the divine and travel down that pathway of possibility and ultimately transformation. You see, I'm not focused on change. As I travel about and have this wonderful sacred privilege to speak in front of a variety of individuals, organizations, places of that sort, I'm not focused on change. Change is not going to solve anything. Change ultimately means what it means with the seasons. It will be fall. Well, it's fall. It will be winter. It will be spring. It will be summer. Change ultimately means that we can go back to the way that it once was if this new way of being does not actually work out. So it's somewhat temporary. And I say this because my goal and my mission in life is transformation. Do you know the difference between change and transformation? You can't go back. Transformation is what happens when a tree blossoms from a seed. You cannot squeeze that tree back into that seed. Transformation is walking through a doorway that disappears once we step through. And as that aligns with spirituality and this type of path that we are all on, if we start recognizing who and what we are in this very moment of now, and our conscious mind begins to expand, we can't go back to play in that small little arena that we used to call our experience. But we have to give ourselves permission to do so. And we all know there are areas where we could expand and grow. Now, as this relates to my particular experience, I'd like to share a little bit about me. I grew up in this very unique part of America, which is called Salt Lake City, Utah. And I know the next question that you have, everybody, I'm glad you asked. There was one time I was like, I thought everybody was going to say, "Are you Mormon?" And somebody's like, "Do you ski?" I'm like, man, yeah, I'm hitting those slopes serious. But I grew up in this unique part of our country, Salt Lake City, Utah. Am I Mormon? I like to say this. Growing up, I was Mormon, however, obviously no longer am, but I still do have family members who practice the Mormon religion, and I've learned in my life that it is not my job to run around and tell people what spiritual path they must follow, because when I look deep enough, I recognize all paths we are walking lead the same way. You see, we're all awakened by the same essence and energy. So growing up in this unique part of Salt Lake City, my mom was adopted from Scotland, and my father is African American. And I think about this, there's a lot of unique synchronicities and divine alignment that has enabled all of us to be here. And one of those was my grandparents, who were a part of the Mormon religion. My grandfather he would go around and build, they do these mission things. I don't know if you ever seen someone come up and knock on your door and, but anyways, we'll save that for another Sunday service. But my grandpa he would go around and build the churches. And so they were in England, and my grandmother was unable to have children. And I was thinking about this in a meditation a while back, thinking about my grandparents walking into this particular orphanage of all places in the world, in Scotland, where they happened to be, and going over to this particular little space and seeing this young little girl, 2 years old at that time, which was my mother. And they grabbed her and they brought her back here, and they did so legally. They didn't just snatch and run, Yeah, they didn't just snatch and run back. But brought her back here with the hopes that in doing so, they would provide that young little girl with an opportunity where her life could blossom and expand. And if she happened to have children of her own, so too would they have this fertile soil where they could recognize more of who and what they are. And on the complete opposite side of the spectrum, my grandfather and grandmother on my father's side, my grandpa was born in Pine Bluff, Arkansas. And his stories compared to on my mom's side, my grandpa's stories were night and day. He told me at 8 years old, when he would be walking home from school, if he got too close to a particular farm, getting shot at with a shotgun because his skin did not reflect that which the community said it should be. On the complete, as it aligns with my grandmother, she was born in Jackson, Mississippi, and I don't think I need to say much about that. But there are a variety of different paths that we as humans have, and we know not what takes place behind the scenes of an individual who we walk past. In fact, some of the individuals who you see every single Sunday, we see just a small little glimpse of who they truly are. And so perhaps that's where compassion and kindness and generosity comes into play. But let me get back to my, I can get on these I got 4 hours, so you guys are doing good. So being born in Salt Lake City, nothing unique. At a young age, my parents went their separate way, which meant my sisters and I were raised with my mother. And when I was about 9 years old, I started witnessing and recognizing and seeing things that a lot of kids shouldn't have to see. You see, my mom started falling victim to drugs, to abuse, to addiction, slipping down a very slippery slope. She failed to see the light that my sisters and I saw shining within her. And due to those circumstances, we were raised by my grandparents on my mom's side in a very nice area of Salt Lake City. And it didn't take long for me to look out into the community and recognize that things didn't really match up. You see, once I got to 6th and 7th grade, I started recognizing things. First and foremost, that everybody in that community had a mother and a father at home. My mom was scraping along rock bottom. My dad, I didn't have a relationship with him till I was 16. My grandparents supported us with a very small Social Security check. So I don't know if you've ever been in an environment where everybody has the nice stuff and you're showing up just with stuff. I like to tease that I had t-shirts, but it's like the polo horse ran off the side of my shirt. So I just showed up with a regular t-shirt, And on top of that, my sister and I were two of the only kids in our community who had a slight different tint of skin. And I know the light's not hitting me right, but I do have a slight different tint of skin. In this community, we were two of the only kids who were children of color or people of color. And it wasn't long until teachers started placing us in these small boxes of limitation. It wasn't soon until I walked into a Sunday school classroom and it had things on the chalkboard where it said, "No N-words allowed." Directed at my sister and myself because we were the two only colored, black kids in the whole community. Until parents in the community started saying that I couldn't hang around with their children. You see, placing us in this very small box of limitation based upon the experience that I was born into. Failing to recognize who I believed that I truly was. Now, at a young age, we do not know how to internalize these things. At least I did not know how to. So I reached out and I grabbed these ideas that other people told me that I was. I brought them within and I actually believed that's who Jeffon was. I was allowing myself to live based upon the opinions that another person had about me. Failing to recognize that power, that still small voice, that intuitive type guidance that was always available inside of myself. And I carried this with me for quite some time, and I don't know if you've recognized, but the way that you see yourself in here tends to dictate and determine the way the outside world responds to you. So if you walk around feeling as if you are worthless, as if you are not valuable, as if you don't belong, you are going to show up in the environment such as that, and suddenly everybody will start mirroring back to you that which you believe yourself to be. If you're with me, can I get a yes? Yes. And this is very detrimental. We can read all the books that we want. We can do all the prayers that we want. We can meditate for weeks on end. But if we don't start doing that work that nobody sees, that is dwelling within ourselves, then it is very difficult for anything out here to change. Now, as I continue to carry this with me into high school, and then into college, I went to college in Seattle. And you know, it's important because there was a handful, and I'll get to the reason why I'm sharing this, not so you can go home and write my biography, but I just want to share this a little bit, okay? So I learned something very important when I'm seeing my mom struggle like that. I realized that you can always shine compassion and love towards an individual regardless of what they are going through. You can always surround people with blessings based upon the thoughts that you are sending their way. Another thing, as I reunited with my father, I realized that it is not my job to run around and point a finger of guilt or shame or blame upon what he did or didn't do. Because when I looked deep enough, I recognized that he was doing the best that he could from where he was at. And so I reunited with my dad when I was in college in Seattle. And my dad had one of these spiritual friends. And I do this because I think I am one of those spiritual friends now. But you probably know these type of individuals. They run around and say things like, hey, you know, divine order is everywhere present. Or maybe something like this, you know, there's no spot where God is not. Have you ever heard those, you know? And if you're one of those people, you know, we'll keep that between us because I am one of those people. But he would tell me these type of things, and I would look at him like, are you crazy? Why are you telling me these type of things? And we would get into heated debates, not arguments. You know, I would try to win my case. A heated debate. And one of these times he said something, and I'm like, do you not see what I just went through and what I am currently going through? At this moment, as you are saying that everything is in divine order, my grandmother who raised me just passed away. My mother is entering into a rehabilitation center for the third time after her second straight relapse. My little sisters are still down in Salt Lake City, Utah, and there was nobody to tell them how incredible, how beautiful, how powerful they are. My grandfather is reaching an age where he's not going to be here much longer. So how dare you say that everything is in divine order, because when I look out into my reality, it is not. And I thought that I made a very strong case. And he gave me a book. And you know, there's something very important about books. There's a lot of power found within books. But I realized that the power really comes like you have to open them, and then there's some lines you have to kind of like think about. You know, you can't just walk around and be like, man, I got all the power right here. You have to use your conscious mind to interpret what those pages are saying. I'm sure many of us in here have books that we want to read that we have not yet read, that are sitting probably on that, you know, desk or wherever in your house. I have a lot of those. But he gave me this book, and eventually I had the courage to open it up, and I'm sure many of you have heard of that book, and it's called A Course in Miracles. And there was a particular passage in a sentence that I read, 2 sentences that I read that really opened a doorway within my conscious mind, and it ultimately said, the real cannot be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. And I started thinking about that. Why does it seem that I make the unreal so real and tend to forget that which is truly of the essence? And so I embraced this type of idea. I took it with me into meditation, with me into my particular spiritual path. And now as I look back in my life, roughly 10 years, my mother has been clean and sober for right about 10 years now. And if my mom can do it, anybody could do it. You cannot lose faith in those individuals who you have close to you who may be struggling with some type of substance. You can always shine compassion and hope towards them, whether or not they are receiving and doing as you think they should receive and do. My little sisters are both incredible young women, mothers, doing exceptionally well. My father is growing and blossoming in his own unique right. I have the privilege to travel around the nation, work with organizations of all sizes. You see, the one thing that I've recognized as I've been traveling through my journey is through the abundant peaks of happiness, of joy, of compassion, of peace, in the low, dark valleys of negativity and despair, there was one presence and one essence that has always been there, and that's the infinite. Some people call it God, some people call it energy, some people call it infinite intelligence. I've yet to find a word that can encompass the all-encompassing, but it is the very essence that enables me to speak a word out into the ethers. So I encourage you, with all of that being said, to reflect in your journey, those moments of happiness, of peace, of positivity, and those dark valleys of despair and pain, and recognize that there has been something that has been with you since the beginning of time. And you can always realign yourself with it consciously from your heart and actually bring it into your everyday experience. You see, the same energy that we use to create hardships, to create stumbling blocks, to create barriers, can be consciously and intentionally used to create bridges that can take us towards our highest and best. We are using our energy each moment of each day. There's a very beautiful quote that ultimately says, "We are most disturbed not by what happens to us, but by our opinion of what happens to us." That opinion that we are carrying with us is so powerful. There was another beautiful quote that says, "It is the set of the sails and not the direction of the wind that determines which way we will go." So life is going to bring things your way each and every day. I'm sure anybody who's lived more than 1 minute has seen that. But how are you setting your sails on your sailboat of life? What direction are you headed? Are you even aware of how you are using this essence and energy that greets you each moment of each day? And it is not something miraculous that suddenly needs to be done. A lightning bolt comes from above and suddenly we have it all figured out. We just simply need to be here now, in this moment. And many people often ask, "Well, Jeffon, how do I remain connected to this present moment?" And there's 2 natural occurring phenomenons that will allow you to do it whenever you forget. And that is simply the breath that we are taking. Does anybody have an idea as to how many breaths we take each and every day? A million. He's breathing heavy, like, thank you. We take, so we got 10,000 and a million. There's a wide disparity in between those. On average, we take roughly 25,000 breaths each day, which means we've taken this year roughly 7 million breaths. Of all those breaths that you've had the chance to take, how many have you been truly conscious and aware of? Yeah, I know somebody's like, "Man, I was walking up those stairs the other day. Boy, that breath was..." So the breath. Another thing is our heartbeat. Our heart beats roughly 100,000 times a day. How often do you pause and just simply feel your heart beating? You see, I say these 2 things because if we are aware of the breath in our heartbeat, we can reconnect to this moment of now, and suddenly we start remembering that there are tools that we are using to assist in the assembly of our reality. And these tools, these paintbrushes that I like to share with individuals that we are all using each moment of each day, whether we're aware of it or not, are these 4 paintbrushes that are tucked in our back pocket. And I'm going to invite you to use them consciously and intentionally. Now, what are those paintbrushes? You see, each day we wake up to a blank canvas that we can color any way we choose. That first paintbrush that we use is that of our thoughts. You see, nobody can think your thoughts for you, though individuals can tell you how to think. You are the thinker of your experience. And as I like to say, what is the part of you that even empowers the thoughts that you think? What is the part of you that thinks your thoughts for you? That's the first paintbrush. The second one is that of our emotions. People can trigger certain things within us, but we are the ones that ultimately empower the emotions and feelings that fuel our body. The third one are our choices, and the fourth one are those actions that we commit to. Thoughts, emotions, choices, actions. We are all using each moment of each day, and these are the paintbrushes that we are using to color the canvas of our reality. So perhaps we can begin to intentionally use them in such a way that we can create this world that we all know is possible, at least within ourselves. Are you willing to do that? As we begin doing these type of things, we start recognizing that which we are waiting for is ourselves. There is nothing that is going to miraculously shake this planet and suddenly come to save us. We have everything that we need dwelling at the depths of our being. Perhaps that which we talk about in deeper, in other religious sectors, whether it's prophets, whether it's Christ, whether it's Buddha, whatever the case may be, perhaps it's just embodying the consciousness that those individuals may have displayed. It's within us. There is something great that is dwelling within. So I'm going to encourage each and every one of us as we go forward today to not only recognize this glory and greatness that is dwelling within ourselves, not just recognize it dwelling within other individuals, but recognize that which is enabling us to simply be here in this moment of now is that which is enabling everything around us to simply be. Does that sound like a plan? All right. I want to conclude with a very simple poem and expression that I like to share often. And it goes as follows. What would happen if we all chose to rise together? What would happen if we all chose to stand together? Instead of plotting and planning to undermine each other. Instead of pointing the finger at our fellow brother and telling them that they're the reason for the problem, or demanding that they're the ones to solve them. Are we all walking on this sacred garden, the planet Earth that is always revolving around the sun? See, all of us illuminated. Some have slipped up and others have deviated from a higher purpose, a deeper plan, fallen victim, temptations of a man. Now I understand no one can tell us who to be. Gotta rise above the selfishness and all the greed. Gotta open up our hearts so we can finally see. And if we do this as a people, then we all are free. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your energy. Thank you for your attention. Thank you, thank you. So before we move into an affirmative prayer, if you are able, here later today, there is a workshop that will be taking place that everybody's invited to if you feel so inclined. There is also an email list if you feel the need and you would like to sign up that I share inspiring type of ideas on a weekly, every day. No, I won't spam you like that. Maybe bi-weekly if you're interested. It's outside as well. So at this moment, let's just center ourselves. Eyes can be closed if that feels comfortable for us. Lifting the crown of our head up towards the ceiling, feeling our feet resting on the ground below. And from this space, let us take a deep breath in, releasing it out. Another breath in, sending it out. From this space, continuing to breathe mindfully, know this with me. For there is one power, one presence, one glorious essence that is dwelling throughout this entire universe. It is that which is enabling the sun to shine. It is enabling this earth to spin. It is that which is enabling each and every one of us to be here in this moment of now. At the depths of this essence, it is perfect, it is whole, it is complete, filled with love, filled with compassion, filled with power. Recognizing this, you and I are empowered by this glorious essence of life. It is that which enables us to just simply take our breath, for our hearts to beat, for us to move, to have this experience. Embracing this recognition and this unification, may we all realize that wherever we happen to be, we are divinely guided. Doorways of opportunities continue to open for us, and we are led in the direct and right way. We are who we are here to be, each moment of each day. recognizing this one essence, unifying with this one power, and realizing that we are being divinely guided each moment of each day, may we rest in gratitude, knowing that we could sit around for the rest of our lives and still could not equate the amount of blessings that we have been given. Let us just simply rest in gratitude, knowing that there is always something to be thankful for. Recognizing this, embracing the unification, realizing this divine guidance, and resting in this gratitude, may we all know that wherever we happen to be as we go throughout this day, this week, this month, this year, for the rest of our lives, that we are right where we are supposed to be, to do the work that we are here to do. Acknowledging this, let us release this out into the ethers, knowing that that which we impress on the infinite is that which returns to us multiplied abundantly. Releasing this, let us just simply say, and so it is.